DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health. At Merck Animal Health, we're shaping the future of animal health with pioneering science, connected technology, and insights-driven solutions to bring our customers an unparalleled portfolio of choices to improve cattle care and operational efficiency. We support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're at the Beef Stocker Day at Kansas State University with Dr. Dale Blasi, his crew, his team, one of the most phenomenal jewels of the beef industry. You got to come to Manhattan to see it. Let's put it on your calendar next year in September, but when we come back, we're going to talk more with Dale and the crew about the Beef Stocker unit and what they're doing here.
They're here, they're hungry, and they can't be stopped with ivermectin. Choose Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodirus, and others. With Safeguard's efficacy, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism, then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Look who we got here. My friend and colleague, Dr. Dale Blasi. He leads this K-State Stocker unit. He is a professor in animal science, ruminant nutrition, has been so endeared to our beef industry and done so much good research and extension that we're just very thankful.
Thank you, Dan. It's good to be here with you.
Talk to us a little bit about Beef Stocker unit and the Beef Stocker Field Day.
Well, we're celebrating our 20th year, and actually today is the 26th Beef Stocker Field Day. And at this event, we talk about a multitude of topics. And of course, this morning, we really delved into the economic aspects of what's happening in our beef industry complex.
Yeah, and you know, that we're just at such all-time highs in what these feeder calves and stocker calves cost us to place. It's just a lot of capital, a lot of risk.
A lot of capital, a lot of risk, and as a researcher, it's a challenge to find these calves to do the research.
Yeah, I'm sure.
To continue to develop and deliver new information, quite an investment for the folks that we are happy to work with for providing these animals for the research that we do.
Yeah, and so here at the unit, you know, you do, obviously you host the field day, which in September, you need to put it on your calendar and come to Manhattan and attend. There's people from all over the country here. Also, you do research, and then you have a huge teaching component, one-on-one, and students that work out here, right?
That's right. I mean, at present, we have about 14 undergraduate students that are full-time students and manage to find anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week to come out and contribute to the feeding of our calves. Also, a small handful of graduate students that are pursuing advanced education for their career. Lots going on, basis on any nutrition management, and then we collaborate closely with our animal health professionals as well.
Sure. And you know, as you talk about, you know, the high price of these calves, a lot of what you do is health related, and the interactions of health and environment and management and nutrition, but just really important with the risk trying to keep these things alive, right?
Exactly. And this environmental issue, and I know you've talked a lot about it, you've worked very hard in that area, trimming the sails, helping to make that environment as comfortable for the animal is incredible in terms of what it can do to efficiency and, as you said, health. And so we're looking at that. Some of the simple animal husbandry things that maybe were not in vogue 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago, I think we're coming around understanding how important the sun and certainly the cold weather that we experience in winter can do to an animal.
Yep. And you know, the bedding and shades and all the different things. And it's you know, when somebody says, well, this isn't the way Grandpa did it, but Grandpa didn't pay $4.50 a pound for a calf.
It's an incredible investment. And you think about a death loss of 2% on the prices you quoted, you got to make up $60 to $70 per head on the remaining 98 survivors, not counting the morbidity and everything else that must be factored in. So it's huge undertaking, and takes a lot of being on top of your game and knowing what you're getting from your animals, or where you're getting them from, and everything. It's all important.
Well, you know, we got to wrap up, but when you think of Stocker Day, what comes to your mind?
Right now, a beautiful fall day, an opportunity for producers to get out in their element, to see what a school is doing to help further their livelihoods. It's a great place for an interchange of ideas.
Yeah.
People, they feel comfortable. It's better than a hotel conference room. It's got a natural vibe to it.
And it's so relevant. Everything that Dr. Blasi and his team does, you can take home from this day and from their research, and I just appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
watching Doc Talk. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back to Kansas State University's Beef Stalker Day. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here, and welcome to the Cattle Intel by Neogen. We're going to talk about down cows. And there's multiple reasons why an animal or cattle can go down. And it can be infectious disease such as listeria or histophilus. It can be a toxin like sulfur. It can be like polioencephalomalacia. It can be due to trauma from slipping or hitting their head and different things like that. And so getting a proper diagnosis of why the animal is down is important to the treatment. Generally speaking, when an animal is down, veterinarians have a broad spectrum treatment because we don't know exactly why the animal is down at this time. So it includes an antibiotic, a steroid, and usually some B vitamins. But make sure that the animal is comfortable. Roll the animal over every 6 hours to prevent compartmentalization. And then make sure that if the animal's not responding, to humanely euthanize that animal within 36 to 48 hours. This has been your Cattle Intel from Neogen.
Are you a cattle feeder looking to manage for a stronger and more profitable set of cattle? Look no further than Igenity Feeder. Igenity Feeder utilizes DNA to gain insight into your cattle's genomic potential, with the information to predict performance, quality, and economic endpoints for cattle feeders. Animals are scored and ranked in a simple format, driving more precise and accurate management decisions. Igenity Feeder gives you the power to predict days on feed, manage variability within lots, characterize carcass performance, and focus on metrics important to you and your operation. With the data provided, you will identify superior animals earlier and maintain high operational efficiency. Maximize your profit and optimize performance with Igenity Feeder.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thomson here at the Beef Stalker Day at Kansas State University, and we have Dr. Dave Renner, who is a professor of epidemiology at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, one of the featured speakers here today. And you're going to talk about respiratory disease.
Yeah, Dr. Blasi asked me to talk about some health research that we've done over the last couple of years, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, so when we start thinking about that and we think about stalker health and, we think about BRD and respiratory disease, what are some of the high level things that stick out to you?
Well, I think one of the key points that I'm going to make in my presentation is I'm going to show the results of 3 different studies, and you get different answers, right? And you're familiar with that we have a lot of different antimicrobial products that can be used for treating respiratory disease, but depending on the cattle population and their risk, and if they did or didn't receive metaphylaxis, I mean, there's not a one size fits all sort of approach.
Right. And, it's identifying the calf, getting the right drug to the right calf at the right time, just kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to emphasize is one of my students has done a lot of work looking at economics of decision making in the industry at various things, and as you know now with the price of calves, death loss is even more expensive than ever. So he built a tool that's available on Ag Manager, so producers can use that and put in what their expected mortality is and basically say what could I pay for an intervention to try to reduce that. So that's the other part of
I have used your research on metaphylaxis, and even with these medium risk and even lower risk cattle, using metaphylaxis with the price of the drug changing and the cost of the cattle going up, it's just made huge economic sense.
Right. I mean, as you said, the cost of cattle combined with the reduced drug costs and the risk associated with death loss, I mean, we need to do everything we can, right?
in your other work, that this, following right along with that, people say, well, now we're increasing antibiotic usage. We actually decrease the number of calves that need treated and decrease some of the higher, more important antibiotics being used that are important for human medicine.
Yeah, right, Dan. And that's circles back to my point earlier. There's a lot of different strategies that you can consider, and you got to consider your values, across the board when you're making those decisions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything from the research front or anything that's new that you want to share with the viewers?
I think what we've been talking about is really, really the big issue that we're seeing now with our research is, the health aspect, and how much we emphasize that is always been important, but it's even more important now, I think.
Yeah, we've been seeing the same too. Death loss now, getting them across the finish line
Right.
is key to economic success.
Right.
So anyway, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thanks
You
for all you
bet.
do on for Kansas State. This guy does probably as much for the beef industry across our country. So humble, but tune in, take a look at what Dr. Dave Renner's doing on the website. He's been a great veterinarian, a great colleague, and a great servant to the beef industry. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back to Beef Stalker Day here at Kansas State University.
Meet Vault, EverAg's all-in-one risk management platform built to bring clarity and confidence to every decision. With Vault on your mobile device, you get a fast, easy view of the numbers that matter most. Real-time percent hedged, P&L performance, current market data, and more. Vault is here for cattle producers, ready when you are. Download the app for iOS or Android today and take more control of your operations risk management.
Success in the cattle business hinges on a lot of different people playing their part, from the vet to the cowboy and the nutritionist to the feed truck driver. You rely on them to get their job done right, and so do your cattle. Your expectations for the vaccines you use should be no different. Bimeda's cattle vaccines were developed and are made and sold by men and women in the cattle business. No smoke and mirrors, just real-world protection that you can rely on. Go to BimedaBiologicals.com to learn more.
I've been a veterinarian since 1987. My wife and I set up a practice in Monette, Missouri in 1989. We started using therapies shortly after it came out. I was overwhelmed with the positive response that we were getting from producers. They could noticeably see a difference. I have to admit that I was pretty skeptical at first. I am currently 110% sold on the product. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an added product that we can use on these cattle that is going to make a significant difference.
In the livestock industry, castration is a common practice to ensure proper herd management. All methods are painful, regardless of the age of the animal. At Solvit, we could not ignore the clear industry need for better castration solutions. So we developed Lidoband, a novel lidocaine-impregnated elastrator, addressing the pain associated with band castration. It provides local anesthesia throughout the castration process. Lidoband, a small device that can make a big difference.
When the ones who have your heart need your help, count on us for everything they deserve, delivered fast. We'll work hard for you so you can work hard for your dreams.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. We're at K-State at Stalker Field Day. We have Dr. A.J. Tarpoff here. He is the State Beef Extension Veterinarian for the state of Kansas and beyond. When you talk about national risks and things sliding east, this parasite that's coming with the tick is an issue, right?
And it's real. So for those of you that have not heard, the Asian longhorn tick.
Yep.
That's a new tick species that we recently found in the U.S. in about 2017. And slowly, and it's actually really fast on how it spreads, but it's moved from the East Coast further west. Right now it's knocking on the that tick itself. It has not been found inside the state of Kansas, but has been found in a lot of our neighboring states. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, recently Iowa. So, yes, it's a tick. Yes, it causes a lot of havoc. Not all of us battle ticks on a year-to-year basis. What's new with this tick is it can transmit a pathogen and cause a disease that we have not seen in this country. It's called Theileria. And that Theileria is what our biggest concern is with this new tick introduction, and that's what we're trying to control.
Yeah, and you know, it's affecting cow herds, but then this thing will happen in younger cattle too. So we see it in stocker calves and feedlot calves. Even if we buy them from the southeast or from the east and bring them in, we may see one in the feedlot.
Absolutely. So this disease looks very similar to anaplasmosis. It's a blood-borne pathogen. It attacks those red blood cells. The body clears them out. But unlike anaplasmosis, it can happen in young calves. Those freshly weaned, stressed animals that, unfortunately, sometimes we're dealing a lot with those introductory into the feedlot, coming into the stocker operation or a backgrounder, and we're bringing those animals from the east and the southeast, and some of those can and will be carriers for Theileria. So we're worried about those individuals. While they need the tick to transmit it to others in the area, they can still, themselves being a carrier, they can break into clinical disease. Unfortunately, we don't have a good treatment. And that's one of the big threats with Theileria is we don't have a great treatment. It is a chronic carrier. We cannot rid the disease of those animals once they're infected. And we have a lot more areas within the United States that are becoming endemic.
Yeah, and I think one of the confusing things is people confuse it with anaplasmosis, and antibiotics do not kill parasites.
No. No. So this is what, where we can properly treat with oxytetracycline for anaplas to kill that organism, where this organism, it's not a bacteria. So our antibiotics do not work against it. That's where, we don't have a treatment. We truly do not have a perfect control mechanism. So the best opportunities for producers, understand the risk, work with your local veterinarian, and really emphasizing control of external parasites like ticks.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is that, when we see those calves come in that are just tick infested, writing down where they're coming from, and really look even in the sale market ring and different things to that nature.
The ticks, they'll be found up under the ears, all the way underneath the top line. If you come in contact with animals that are just coated in ticks, get a tick sample. Get that sent into your local veterinarian. If they have questions on it, they can send it to the local diagnostic lab wherever you are in the country to make sure that we're identifying that tick if it's spreading into new areas.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to learn more about what's going on here at the Stocker Unit with Dr. AJ Tarpoff. You're watching DocTalk. Thanks for joining.
When it comes to treating BRD, you want a product that you can count on to get the job done at an affordable price. Macrocin by Bimeda delivers on both. A straight-shooting, no BS tulathromycin that does what it's supposed to do. End of story. You don't need to take our word for it, though. Go to macrocin.com for customer testimonials and head-to-head trial results. For your cattle and your bottom line, choose Macrocin.
Time is money on the farm, and your cows are less productive when they're stressed. The Alertus on-farm test from IDEXX allows you to quickly test cowside and identify open or pregnant cows within minutes on your schedule in the parlor, barn, or chute. It's more efficient for your farm, very simple to use, and puts you in control. With minimal training and reliable, fast results, sample-based pregnancy testing is better for beef and dairy producers. Learn more at idexx.com/DocTalk.
When you spot BRD in your cattle, that's your golden opportunity to target infection and its associated fever with a single dose of Resflor Gold, the industry standard dual therapy. To learn more, talk to your Merck Animal Health rep or your vet and see label at resflorgold.com. Animals intended for human consumption must not be slaughtered within 38 days of treatment. This product is not approved for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with my friend and colleague, Dr. AJ Tarpoff, and we're at Kansas State at the Beef Stocker Day, where Dr. Tarpoff does a lot of research, uses it to teach. If you haven't come to Beef Stocker Day in September in Manhattan, Kansas, you're missing it. This is one of the best meetings of the year for the beef industry, and just thankful for all you do.
No, it's this day is really special. Gets to highlight a lot of our what our students are working hard on. Bring them in, see our facilities, interact with a lot of folks from industry,
Yep.
and this is a great place to get neighbors together. Where we share a lot of education and research, but just neighbors getting together. It's amazing how much they can learn from each other.
And when you say neighbors, I mean, it's people from all over the country that are here. And what a learning environment, and just lots of fun. But tell us some stuff that's going on at the Stalker unit.
We've got some great research that'll really help producers going on right now and just wrapping up. Right now, we've actually been working on some heat stress. Over the last handful of years, 4 or 5 years, I've really taken an emphasis on looking at heat stress and how better to mitigate some of those issues to really help our industry.
Yep.
And this year, we wrapped up a summer project actually looking at feeding times, whether you can feed in the morning versus the evening. Can that help mitigate some of the heat during the middle of the day? We've got some promising results. It's actually getting run as we speak, so don't have some great, the overall data, don't have any of that to share, but this is a great facility to be able to use applied questions that comes from industry. Let's look at it in a very controlled setting and get realistic information and answers out of
Well, it
out
makes
to
some
producers.
sense, right? That if we feed in the evening and the heat of fermentation is at the coolest part of the day rather than at the hottest part of the day, it makes some sense, right?
So physiologically, it makes sense. So right now, when we think about heat stress, it's compounding factors,
Yep.
right? It's hair color, it's wind speed, it's solar radiation, it's temperature, all of those things working against the animal. And like you mentioned, the heat of fermentation. When we feed animals, that heat of digestion, that energy it takes to break down feedstuffs, that's also a heat generating event. So if we can spread out some of those stressors at different points of the day, they don't compile on top of that animal. And hopefully we can alleviate some of those concerns, help them perform and utilize the resources that we're putting them in to ultimately make more beef.
Well, and you just think about this, not only in the summer, but probably even in the winter, in cold stress situations of feeding in the evening and matching the heat of fermentation when the animal's the coldest.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because here at the Beef Stocker unit, we ran that study, and we did show some promising work that when we feed in the evening hours, it keeps them warmer during the overnight hours,
Yeah.
and they actually perform better. So there's a lot more that we can do to help alleviate some of the stressors our animals feel, and we're trying to break that down step by step to give almost a playbook for producers that if you have options, if you want to control heat stress and make your help your animals produce to the best of their ability, here's your playbook of options that are at your disposal.
But that isn't the way Grandpa did it.
Right.
You know, and that's what we battle so much, is that we get into a rut, and this is just exciting stuff to push the envelope and learn.
We're trying to stay on the cutting edge for the industry, keeping up to date with technologies, and be at the forefront to be able to get this information into producers' hands, where then it can really make a difference.
Well, you always do a great job, and you always get it out, and we just appreciate so much the work that you do.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, if you want to find us on the web, you can find us at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson here at Kansas State Stalker Unit with Dr. AJ Tarpoff, and we'll see you down the road.
At Merck Animal Health, we support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
When the ones who have your heart need your help, count on us for everything they deserve, delivered fast. We'll work hard for you so you can work hard for your dreams.
We are a start-to-finish yard. Bring them in at 500 pounds and finish them out to 14 to 1,500 pounds. Max capacity is about 15,000. We begin with the end in mind, which that means it starts from day one coming off the truck. Heard all sorts of stuff about the generics coming out from, a few different companies here and there, but we started working with Bimeda. What I like about working with Bimeda is our rep. He seems like he's just one of us. He knows, he's been in the cattle feeding industry for a long time. He understands where we're coming from, what goes on in the feed yard. So we started implementing Macrocin last July, and we're using it as our first poll treatment. The data shows that success rates on BRD, they're equivalent to the other macrolides that we were using. We just feel fortunate enough, I guess, to get our hands on it, and it works great for us for a first poll treatment. It's what really jumped out to us working with Bimeda, meeting with the rep. Macrosin's affordable. We finally got a product that everybody can afford. We try to do the little things right, whether it's from low stress cattle handling, animal welfare, how we work with the cattle every single day. That's something we really focus on, but when you've got a product like a Macrosin, it's just another assurance protecting you, controlling your BRD from what stressors are thrown out there or what Mother Nature is going to bring to you. This industry, it takes everybody, whether it's working with the nutritionist, it's cowboys working with the veterinarians. Everybody plays a part, and we expect them to do their jobs, but also we expect the drugs or what we put into the cattle to do their job too. And I think these Bimeda products, they're proven that they're doing the job for us.